So in this example, we're going to go from the point at which Edgar's checked in through a SOAP note, create an invoice, and then we're going to post that invoice in a later video. So this will focus on how to use a medical note to generate an invoice. So from our desktop, we double click on Edgar or we can click on patient file. This is going to load up any information. Now, if you watched the introduction video, we created a SOAP note earlier. So here is the SOAP note from that introduction video. And the point of me showing you this is that so you can see that anything that's added to the visit, including a SOAP note before the invoice, is saved onto the visit. So VIA will automatically organize and categorize that information for you. So I'm going to start a new SOAP note like we did in the introduction. I'm going to load a SOAP note template over this. Now, the information you see here is from the default SOAP note template. So I'm going to load SOAP note template. I'm going to choose dentistry. And this will be a basic dentistry template. Now, what this does is it sets up the note for questions that are commonly used during dentistry, entries that are commonly done. It will populate every tab that it contains information for. So you can have pre-populated objective information, examination information, plan information, invoice items, discharge instructions. You can also customize the pick list on the right-hand side here. So I'm going to jump through just a couple of changes on each tab so you can see the basic function. Now, as in the introductory video, I'm using the end key to move between the bookmarks. And this will allow me to answer questions quick. No diarrhea. However I want to enter that. You can see my formatting is fluid. It doesn't matter how I enter it. VIA is not going to restrict you. It's a basic text field. You can do whatever you'd like. Now, since I loaded this SOAP note template, I do want to save as I go here. One thing to keep in mind is if you save the note, you cannot load a second SOAP note template over it. If I click the button, it just tells me I can't do that. And that's to protect your medical history. So moving on to my objective tab, I have objective area. Now this is a great place to enter vitals. So I'm just going to put vitals by technician. It's a great place to put that here. You can also use the vital entry. Now this is great for medical record detail and building out your medical record because this will give you editable charts and viewable information in a more scientific format as opposed to just reading text. So I want to put some information in here. So let's say he is 52 pounds, his temp is 100.8, his heart rate is 80, respiration's 50, CRT's 1, 80 over 50, and so on. And I can say a little nervous during vitals. Hit OK, and those get entered. Now, if I look at the patient's file on another workstation, after this SOAP note has been saved, that information then gets populated into the patient vital summary so you can see a history. So any information entered here will also populate out. I save. Now, I don't have to save in between every tab, but I do make a habit of it. It's a good habit to have. It just prevents any information from possibly being lost. It is a networked software after all, and things do happen on computers. So you want to save as you go. When I hit apply, it will save for every tab. Now, in order to populate my exam and make this as easy as possible, we've used pick lists as well. There are lots of descriptions and things that you use as a practitioner that are consistently used. So we want to save a lot of time. So I'm just going to add a few things in here. So let's say his oral cavity. Let's say he's got mild gingivitis. Let's put a comma in there. Let's say he's got moderate tartar. Okay. And if I want to enter anything else, I simply click on that area and I pick something. Now, what I want to do is enter my abnormals first and then my normals. VIA has automated this process. So once I put one or two things in here, let's say he's wheezing just a little bit, and that's maybe going to be an issue for us later on. We hit abnormal and it turns the items red. Now I can change something back. Let's say we let him calm down, we come back and we realize, oh, he's not really wheezing. I'm going to change this back to normal, double click, and then I can remove this and say panting slightly. Okay, and then toggle that back to abnormal. Now we can go back and forth however we need to. The point of this is to speed you up, not restrict you. So we want you entering your abnormals and then click normals and it's going to pull an automatic description that is customizable from each body system using the pick list first entry. So you can customize what you want your normal description to be. So I'm going to apply that and save that. Now I can also attach images. So let's say you go through your process of your dental, and during that process you take some pictures. So I can use exam images at the top to identify a specific body system that's going to get an image, or I can use attach images and attach files at the bottom to attach that information to the overall SOAP note. I'm going to use the items for oral cavity. So I'm going to attach an exam image directly to oral cavity. Now this pops up. It's going to open up a default folder, and that default folder will be determined by your computer, and then you can pick and it will remember the last folder you used. So let's say we take a before picture, click open, loads that up, save that. Now please excuse the fact that that is clearly not a golden retriever, but just for example purposes. We open up our after picture, and this is a great way, saving that information, this is a great way to have multiple pictures in a medical note showing what you're doing, especially with dentals, because clients don't really look in their pet's mouths, of course. Now we can also make annotations on these different images. We also have a diagram. So if I want to put a diagram in there, I use a diagram icon, pick the appropriate diagram. This is a customizable list of diagrams. Hit select and it will load another one. I can save that, and you'll see on the left hand side now we have 3 images. So our diagrams allow us to really show what's going on. So I'm going to click edit on my diagram. I'm going to pick the circle here, and let's say I want to make a blue circle. Okay, so we come in here, we draw a blue circle. All right, and then let's say I want to make just a little bit of a note. So I clicked on the font, added a section, and say deep gum pocket. Okay. So from there I save that, and those annotations are now on that image and locked in and have become a part of that image. So this is a great way of notating what you're finding as you go through. So we close that image viewer, and that image is now attached and saved there. So we can move on. We complete our dental. Let's say we want to make some notation about his assessment status, so you can make your notations here. Okay, so let's say we feel that his anesthetic risk was mild. We want to put in a couple of notations, or we want to type some things. We can do that. From here, we can add a diagnosis. Now the diagnosis is a set of codes that is customizable. There is a searching option for that. Okay, and our diagnosis codes are going to come with VIA, but you can add to them or take away from them if you'd like. Now, our gingivitis diagnosis is in here under 3 possible statuses. So you've got a rule out, a diagnosis, and a diagnosis add to problems list. So the add to problem list is a way of creating a permanent problem list over time. So let's say we're going to add that because it seems to be an issue with him going forward. So we're going to click OK and apply that. Now we move on to the plan. The plan, as you can see, has a lot of text that is auto-filled in here. This is for our treatment plan layout, and this is just one way of using this section. You can also copy-paste from a Word document or do whatever else you'd like to do as far as the pick list goes, and use different items, different size things, paragraphs, sentences, phrases, single words to populate automatically. Now we do want to add some items to an invoice. I'm going to save this medical note, and then we're going to proceed to the invoice. Okay, so let's proceed to our invoice. So we're going to click Show Editor, and this is going to allow us to enter items into a treatment plan system that allows me to do quantities and pricing and amounts and all of the other options that you need for invoicing. Now, if you haven't watched the invoicing videos or you're not familiar with VIA invoicing, please do so. These videos will have a detail that we can't go through in every single video. If I want to pull an estimate in as opposed to doing this manually, I can do that from the Actions menu up here and pull an estimate from this client or another client and load it in. Now VIA has the ability to use groups to shorten your invoicing time, use preloaded estimates on a file that can be loaded from another file to shorten your time of entry. So there's a lot of different things you can do to take out a lot of the manual work. What I'm going to do is use a group. So I'm going to enter group. Now, the searching ability of VIA is very broad. When I do a search, it's looking at code and description. So when I build my groups, I want to keep in mind that I want to make it easy for people to find things. I'm going to just pick Easy Dental Prophylaxis Group here and hit select. Now this is going to load in a group of items. Now my first line does not have a price or an amount or a description. That is the beginning of the group. The bottom line does not have an item code or a price. That is the end of the group. Now there are a couple different types of groups and we recommend you look up group types in order to understand them completely. I'm going to keep this very simple. So in order to push these items to the invoice, I'm going to accept them. Let's say we're getting ready to start our dental and we want to push these items out. Now there are a lot of zero prices in this particular group and that's okay. It depends on the type of grouping pricing you want to do. Some cases you have lots of small prices which add up to a larger number. Some cases you have prices that are zeroed out because you bundle everything together and you want to show the items in the group for inventory use. So it really depends on how you want to handle that. What I'm going to do here is just enter a price. Let's say this dental, the actual scaling and polishing is $200 and we put that in there and let's say it includes almost everything. It doesn't include the injection fee, it doesn't include the penicillin, it doesn't include a few things. And that's just how we're going to handle this particular group. Now from here I can add tasks, I can add flags, recalls, I can adjust and add more item codes. I can attach image studies, vaccines, RX labels, laboratory options, however I'd like to do. Now it's good to keep in mind that all of those options work the same way whether you're in a plan or in an invoice. So learning that process one way does not mean you have to learn it another. As long as you understand how to do image studies and labs and RX labels and things, you'll be able to do them in either the plan or the invoice. So I'm going to save this note. Because everything is checked, when I hit apply, it's going to make an adjustment and save this information. So watch carefully. Notice now that everything is marked as invoiced. So when you save a note, if you have an item checked as accepted, it will invoice it. And that's a quick and easy feature to help speed things along. So from here, let's say I want to prep my discharge instructions. So I can go in, do my discharge instructions, and then I can go to settings and I can choose to print that. So as our print preview pops up on the screen, we have our discharge instruction with our discharge notes. Now this is totally customizable. There is a very large character count. It's essentially about 10 single-spaced pages worth of space available on every tab for your text field. So you are not going to run out of space. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and close the print preview. And I'm going to hit OK, and let's take a look at what our patient file looks like. Now, as it processes, it will load everything up in reverse order in which it happens. So this is a descending order. So the most recent thing, or the thing at the bottom of my treatment plan, will be the first thing in my patient history. Now notice that the group is not loaded because the group doesn't actually exist. The group is an organization of other item codes. So when you look at your patient file, you see all the item codes that were associated with the group. And if I highlight our medical note, we can see our medical note as well. Okay. So that is basic medical note usage. Now I'm going to go over to the invoice to show you the end result. And here is the end result of our plan being pushed to the invoice. We have a $220.57 balance left over. This is a pending invoice. And then we can go ahead and check this client out and let them get going on their way. So thank you for watching this video. Please do look at the detailed invoicing video and also any of our Q&A and our help file online.